They're hurting my sister. Please, they're hurting my sister. A 5-year-old girl, barefoot, bleeding from her knees, tears cutting through the dirt on her face, ran straight into a group of Hells Angels bikers at a gas station and grabbed the nearest man's vest with both fists. She was shaking so hard she could barely stand. The biker dropped to one knee and looked into her eyes, and what he saw there broke something inside him that had been broken for years. He didn't ask questions. He didn't hesitate. He stood up, turned to his brothers, and said 3 words: "We're going. Now." What happened next would shake an entire town to its core. If you believe in real stories about real people doing extraordinary things, subscribe to this channel right now, follow this story to the very end, and drop a comment telling us what city you're watching from so we can see just how far this story travels. Wyatt Greer hadn't slept in 2 days. He'd been riding since Thursday morning, pushing through the Tennessee back roads with his Hells Angels brothers, running from nothing and heading nowhere in particular. That was the beauty of the road. You didn't need a reason. You just needed gas and guts. 40 years old, sandy brown hair streaked with early gray, a scar that ran from his left jaw down to his collarbone, a gift from a bar fight in Memphis he barely remembered. Hands like stone, eyes like a man who had buried more than he'd built. But this morning, this cold, sharp October morning, he wasn't thinking about any of that. He was thinking about his daughter. Her name was Grace. She'd be 11 now. He hadn't seen her in 4 years, not since his ex-wife Karen packed everything into a Chevy Tahoe and drove to Oregon without telling him. He came home to an empty house, a note on the kitchen counter, and a silence so loud it cracked something in his chest that never healed. "You still with us, brother?" Dawson asked, pulling his Harley next to Wyatt's at the gas pump. Wyatt blinked. "Yeah, just tired." "You've been just tired for 6 years, man." Dawson killed his engine and swung off the bike. He was younger, 32, thick-necked, blonde beard, arms like tree trunks. He looked like trouble, but the man had a heart that bled too easy. "Let's get some coffee. Rex is already inside." The gas station was one of those forgotten places off Highway 70. Cracked concrete, one working pump, a flickering neon sign that read, "Last Stop." Inside, Rex was already at the counter, flirting with the woman behind the register, who clearly wanted nothing to do with him. Rex was the loudest of the group, late 20s, red hair, freckled face. He talked like every sentence was a punchline, but Wyatt knew better. Rex had done 3 years in county for aggravated assault, a fight that started because someone put their hands on his younger brother. He wasn't loud because he was careless. He was loud because silence scared him. Then there was Cal. Cal was the oldest, 63, gray beard that touched his chest. He'd ridden with the Hells Angels since he was 19 years old. He didn't talk much anymore, didn't need to. When Cal looked at you, you felt it in your spine. He sat on the bench outside the gas station, coffee in one hand, cigarette in the other, watching the morning fog lift off the road like a curtain being pulled back on a stage. "Beautiful morning," Cal said to no one. Wyatt sat down beside him. "You say that every morning." "Because it's true every morning." Cal took a slow drag. "You call your daughter yet?" Wyatt's jaw tightened. "Don't start." "I'm not starting, I'm asking." "Same thing." Cal looked at him, not with judgment but with something heavier, understanding. "I lost my boy when he was 16. Car accident on I-40. You know that, and I give every mile I've ever ridden just to hear his voice one more time." He exhaled smoke into the cold air. "You still got a chance, Wyatt. Don't waste it being stubborn." Wyatt didn't answer. He stared at the highway and let the silence fill the space between them. Cal never pushed, that was his way. He planted seeds and walked away. Inside the gas station, Rex was now loudly debating with Dawson about whether biscuits and gravy counted as a real breakfast or a heart attack on a plate. The woman behind the counter, her name tag read, Darlene, just shook her head and poured more coffee. "You boys riding through or staying?" Darlene asked. Just passing, Dawson said, heading south. Well, be careful on Route 12. There's been trouble out past the old Miller farm. Cops been out there twice this week. What kind of trouble? Rex asked. Darlene hesitated. She wiped the counter slowly, like she was buying time. Just trouble. The kind folks around here don't talk about. Rex raised an eyebrow. Dawson shrugged. They didn't think much of it. Small towns always had their ghosts. Wyatt finished his coffee and stood up. His knees ached. His back was stiff. 40 felt like 60 on mornings like this. He walked to his bike and started checking the tires when he heard it. At first he thought it was a bird. A hawk, maybe, or a crow screaming from the tree line. But then it got louder, closer. And it wasn't a bird. It was a child. He turned. A little girl, blonde hair tangled and wild, no shoes, a thin cotton dress that was ripped at the sleeve, was running across the gravel lot toward them, running like something was chasing her, running like her life depended on it. She was crying so hard she could barely breathe. Snot and tears covered her face. Her knees were scraped raw. One of them was bleeding, leaving tiny red drops on the white gravel behind her, and she was screaming, "Help! Please help! They're hurting my sister! They're hurting my sister!" Every biker stopped. Every sound disappeared. Wyatt felt something crack open inside his chest, the same place that had been broken since Grace left. He didn't think. He didn't calculate. His body moved before his brain caught up. He dropped to one knee right in front of her. She slammed into him full speed, her tiny hands grabbing fistfuls of his leather vest, her whole body shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. She buried her face in his chest and sobbed so hard he could feel her ribs heaving. Hey, look at me." Wyatt's voice came out softer than he expected, softer than he'd spoken in years. He put his hands on her shoulders, gently, so gently, like she was made of glass. "What's your name?" Lily." She could barely get it out. "Lily, I'm Wyatt. I need you to breathe, okay? Can you do that for me?" She tried. Her breath hitched 3 times before she managed a shaky inhale. "Good, that's good. Now tell me, who's hurting your sister?" "2 men. They came to our house. They're hitting her. She told me to run. She told me to find help." Lily's voice broke again. "Please, she's all I have. She's all I have." Wyatt felt something shift inside him, something old and deep and furious. He looked into this child's eyes, blue, wide, absolutely terrified, and he saw Grace. He saw every child he'd ever failed to protect. He saw every moment he'd looked away when he shouldn't have. Not this time. He stood up. Dawson was already beside him. "Where?" "Down the road," Lily said, pointing with a trembling finger toward the east. "Past the big dead tree, the house with the blue door." Rex came out of the gas station, his face hard. "What's going on?" "2 men beating a woman," Wyatt said. His voice had changed. The softness was gone. What replaced it was something cold and precise, like a blade being drawn. "We're going." "All of us?" Rex asked. "No, 3. Me, Dawson, Rex. Cal, you stay with the girl." Cal was already moving. He knelt down and opened his arms. Lily looked at Wyatt, uncertain. "He's going to take care of you," Wyatt said. "I promise. We're going to get your sister." "You promise?" Her voice was so small it nearly broke him. "I promise." Cal scooped Lily up like she weighed nothing. He carried her toward the gas station, his big, weathered hand cradling the back of her head. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's get you inside where it's warm. You like hot chocolate?" Lily nodded against his shoulder. Darlene was already at the door, her face pale. "Lord have mercy, what happened to this child?" "Get her something warm," Cal said, "and call 911. Tell them there's a domestic assault in progress past the Miller farm." Darlene didn't ask questions. She grabbed the phone. Outside, 3 engines roared to life. Wyatt gripped his handlebars and felt the vibrations shoot up through his arms and settle in his chest. He looked at Dawson. He looked at Rex. No words were needed. They'd ridden together through worse. They'd fought together, bled together. This was different, though. This wasn't about pride or territory or reputation. This was about a 5-year-old girl who had nobody else to run to. They tore out of the lot. Gravel sprayed behind them like buckshot. The cold air hit Wyatt's face, and he leaned into it, pushing the Harley harder. 60. 70. The road was narrow and cracked, lined with dead oaks and rusted fences. 2 minutes. That's all it took. He saw the tree first, a massive dead oak split by lightning, standing like a skeleton against the gray sky. Then the house, small, wooden, paint peeling off in strips, a blue door that was hanging half off its hinges. And he heard it, a woman screaming. Not a scream of anger, a scream of pain. The kind of scream that comes from someone who has stopped fighting back and is just trying to survive the next hit. Wyatt killed his engine and was off the bike before it fully stopped. His boots hit the dirt and he was already running. Dawson was right behind him. Rex circled to the back of the house. No one was getting out. The blue door gave way with one kick. Inside, the air smelled like whiskey and sweat and blood. Furniture was overturned. A lamp was shattered on the floor, its cord still plugged into the wall. And there in the kitchen, 2 men had a young woman pinned against the counter. She was maybe 22, blonde hair matted with blood. Her left eye was swollen shut. Her lip was split open. She had her arms wrapped around her own head, trying to protect herself, and she was making sounds that weren't even words anymore, just raw, animal sounds of terror. The taller man, shaved head, neck tattoo, easily 6'3", had his hand around her throat. The shorter one, wiry, twitchy, with meth-rotted teeth, was going through drawers, pulling out everything, throwing things on the floor. "Where's the money?" the tall one growled. "Your daddy owed us. You think dying changes that?" The woman, Emma, couldn't answer. She couldn't breathe. "Hey," one word, that's all Wyatt said. The tall man turned, and Wyatt's fist connected with his jaw so hard it sounded like a baseball bat hitting a watermelon. The man's head snapped sideways, and he staggered back, releasing Emma, who collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. The wiry one spun around, a kitchen knife in his hand. He lunged at Wyatt. Dawson caught his wrist from behind, twisted it. The knife clattered to the linoleum. Dawson drove his knee into the man's back and put him face down on the floor in one fluid motion, pinning his arm behind him at an angle that made him scream. "Don't move." Dawson's voice was ice. The tall man recovered faster than Wyatt expected. He charged, throwing his full weight forward. Wyatt sidestepped, grabbed the man's collar, and used his own momentum to send him crashing into the refrigerator. The door dented inward. Bottles shattered inside. The man slid to the floor, dazed. Wyatt grabbed him by the shirt and pulled him up to eye level. "You like hitting women? Huh? You feel like a big man putting your hands on her?" The man's eyes were glassy. Blood dripped from his mouth. He tried to swing. Wyatt caught his fist, squeezed, and twisted until the man dropped to his knees. "I asked you a question." "Man, you don't know what you're walking into," the tall one slurred. "This ain't your business." "You made it my business when a 5-year-old girl ran barefoot to a gas station, begging strangers to save her sister's life." Wyatt's grip tightened. "That little girl should be playing with dolls. Instead, she's covered in dirt and blood because of you." The man had nothing to say. Rex appeared from the back hallway. "House is clear. No one else." Wyatt released the man and let him crumple to the floor. He turned to Emma, who was still on the ground, her back against the cabinet, her whole body shaking. Her breathing was ragged and shallow. Blood dripped from her forehead onto her shirt. Wyatt knelt down, slowly, the way he'd knelt for Lily. "Emma," he said softly. She flinched. Her one good eye looked up at him. wild, unfocused, full of fear. "My name's Wyatt. Your sister sent us. Lily's safe. She's at the gas station with one of my brothers. She's okay." Emma's face crumbled. Every wall she'd built, every ounce of strength she'd used to survive the last 20 minutes, collapsed at once. She reached out with a trembling hand and grabbed Wyatt's arm, her fingers digging into his sleeve. "Lily?" she whispered. "She's okay? They didn't—" "She's fine. She's safe. I promise you." Emma let out a sound that wasn't a word. It came from somewhere so deep inside her that it didn't have a name. Relief, grief, rage, love, all of it at once, pouring out of her in a single, broken sob. Wyatt didn't move. He stayed right there, on one knee, and let her hold his arm until her breathing slowed. Dawson had both men zip-tied with electrical cord he'd found in a drawer. They weren't going anywhere. Rex stood over them, arms crossed, his usual grin replaced by something dark and quiet. "How long?" Wyatt asked Emma gently. "How long have they been coming around?" Emma wiped blood from her lip with the back of her hand. Her voice was hoarse. "My dad died 6 months ago. Overdose. He owed them money. Gambling debts. They came to the house 3 weeks ago, said I inherited his debt. $5,000. I told them I didn't have it. I work part-time at the dollar store. I'm raising Lily by myself. I don't have 5,000 cents. She coughed and winced, clutching her ribs. "They came back today, early, before Lily was even awake. They kicked the door in. I told Lily to hide under the bed, but she must have run." Her voice broke again. "She's 5. She shouldn't have to." Emma couldn't finish. Wyatt put his hand on her shoulder. "She's brave, like her sister." "I'm not brave," Emma whispered. "I'm just tired." Sirens, faint at first, then louder, coming fast. "That'll be the cops," Dawson said from the doorway. "Darlene must have called it in." Wyatt helped Emma to her feet. She was unsteady. He could tell at least one rib was cracked by the way she held her side. Her wrist might have been sprained. She kept it tucked against her body. "Can you walk?" he asked. "I think so. Lean on me." She did, and for the first time in months, Emma felt something she'd forgotten existed. Safety. The simple, human feeling of someone being there. Not because they had to, not because they wanted something, but because they chose to. Outside, the morning had turned bright. The fog was gone. Sunlight cut through the bare tree branches and landed on the dirt yard in golden patches. 2 patrol cars pulled up, lights flashing, tires crunching on the gravel. Officers stepped out with hands on holsters, until they saw the bikers standing calmly in the yard, hands visible, the 2 men zip-tied on the kitchen floor inside. "We're Hell's Angels," Wyatt said evenly. "We got a call from a child that her sister was being assaulted. We intervened. Both suspects are inside, restrained. The victim needs medical attention." The lead officer, a stocky man in his 50s with a gray mustache, looked at Wyatt, then at Emma, then at the open door of the house. He'd been a cop in this county for 27 years. He'd seen a lot. He'd also been out to the Miller Farm area twice in the past month on noise complaints. He knew something bad was brewing out here. He just hadn't gotten here in time. But these men had. "Anyone need medical?" the officer asked. "She does," Wyatt said, nodding toward Emma. "Possible cracked rib. Her face needs attention." The officer radioed for an ambulance. His partner went inside to secure the suspects. Emma stood in the yard, arms wrapped around herself, staring down the road toward the gas station. "I need to see Lily," she said. "I need to see my sister." "You will," Wyatt said. "Let the medics check you first." "No." Emma's voice was suddenly sharp, fierce. "I need to see her now. She must be so scared. She's only 5. She doesn't understand what's happening. She just knows the men were hurting me, and she ran. She ran into the world alone, Wyatt. She ran, and she didn't know if I was alive or dead." Wyatt looked at her, really looked at her. Bruised, bloodied, barely standing, and the only thing she cared about was her little sister. He nodded. Okay, we'll take you. He turned to Dawson. Stay with the cops. Handle the statements. Dawson gave a thumbs up. Wyatt walked Emma to his bike. She hesitated. I've never been on one of these, she said quietly. Just hold on to me. I won't go fast. She climbed on behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist carefully, wincing as her ribs protested. Wyatt started the engine. The rumble shook through both of them, and for a moment, just one brief, strange moment, Emma closed her eyes and let the vibrations settle into her bones, and she felt something she couldn't name. Like maybe the worst part was over. Like maybe the world still had people in it who showed up. They rode slow. The morning air was cold but clean, and the road back to the gas station felt longer than it should have, like time itself was stretching to let them breathe. When they pulled into the lot, the first thing Wyatt saw was Cal, sitting on the bench outside the gas station, and next to him, tiny, wrapped in a leather vest 5 sizes too big for her, was Lily. The second Lily saw the motorcycle, she jumped off the bench. The second she saw her sister on the back of it, she started running. Emma! Emma! Emma was off the bike before it fully stopped. She dropped to her knees on the gravel, and Lily slammed into her so hard they both nearly fell over. Emma wrapped her arms around her little sister and held her like the world was trying to pull them apart, and she would die before she let go. I'm here, Emma whispered into Lily's hair. I'm here. I'm okay. I'm here. Lily was crying too hard to speak. Her small hands gripped the back of Emma's shirt, twisting the fabric, holding on with every ounce of strength her tiny body had. You came back, Lily finally choked out. You came back. I'll always come back, Emma said. Always. Wyatt stood by his bike and watched them. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stood there, hands at his sides, and felt something warm and heavy settle in his chest, right in the place where the cold had lived for 4 years. Cal walked up beside him. The old man didn't say a word. He just put his hand on Wyatt's shoulder and squeezed. Darlene came out of the gas station, wiping her eyes with her apron. Ambulance is 5 minutes out, she said. Then she looked at the 2 sisters on the ground, holding each other, and her voice cracked. Lord, those babies. Wyatt pulled out his phone. He stared at it for a long time. Then he opened his contacts, scrolled to a name he hadn't called in 4 years, and pressed dial. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Voicemail. Hey, Grace, he said. His voice broke on her name. He cleared his throat and tried again. It's Dad. I know it's been too long, and I know I don't have the right to call, but I needed you to know that I'm thinking about you. Every day, every mile. You're the reason I'm still riding. He paused, swallowed hard. I love you, baby girl. I'm sorry I didn't say it enough. I'm going to do better, I promise. He hung up. Cal was still standing beside him. The old man nodded once, just once, but it said everything. On the ground, Lily pulled back from Emma's arms and looked up at her sister's battered face. Her little hand reached up and touched the bruise on Emma's cheek, feather light. Does it hurt? Lily whispered. Not anymore, Emma said, and she meant it. The ambulance arrived 7 minutes later. 2 paramedics jumped out, a man and a woman both moving fast. The woman knelt beside Emma and started checking her vitals while the man opened a trauma kit. Emma flinched when the paramedic touched her ribs. I need to stay with my sister, Emma said immediately. Ma'am, we need to examine you. You may have fractures. I'm not leaving her. Lily squeezed Emma's hand tighter. I'm not going anywhere either. The female paramedic looked at Wyatt, then back at Emma. Okay, she can stay, but I need you to hold still for me. Emma nodded and gritted her teeth as the paramedic lifted her shirt to examine her torso. The bruising was worse than it looked from the outside. Deep purple and black marks spread across her left side like a map of violence. The paramedic's face stayed professional, but her eyes gave her away. "At least 2 fractured ribs," she said quietly. "We need to take you in for x-rays." "I can't afford a hospital," Emma said flatly. "I don't have insurance." "Ma'am, I have $43 in my checking account. I work 20 hours a week at the Dollar General. I can't afford an ambulance ride, let alone an x-ray." Wyatt stepped forward. "We'll handle it." Emma looked up at him. "What?" "Don't worry about the money. Just let them take care of you." "I can't let you do that. I don't even know you." "You know enough." Wyatt's voice was steady. "And that little girl right there ran across a highway barefoot to find help. The least I can do is make sure her sister gets fixed up." Emma opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came out. Her chin trembled. She looked away and nodded. Cal walked over and knelt down next to Lily. "Hey, sweetheart, how about you ride with your sister in the ambulance? I bet they got some cool stickers in there." "Do they have butterfly ones?" Lily asked, her voice still shaky but curious. "Only one way to find out." The paramedics loaded Emma onto a stretcher. She winced with every movement but never let go of Lily's hand. As they slid her into the back of the ambulance, Lily climbed up beside her and sat on the bench, her bare feet dangling above the floor. "Wyatt?" Emma called out just before the doors closed. He was already walking toward his bike. He turned. "Thank you," she said. 2 words. But the way she said them carried the weight of everything she couldn't say. He nodded once. The doors closed. The ambulance pulled away, sirens cutting through the morning quiet. Wyatt stood in the lot and watched until it disappeared around the bend. Then he pulled out a cigarette, lit it, and took a long drag. His hands were shaking, not from adrenaline, from something else. Something he'd been burying for years that this morning had dug back up. "You okay?" Cal asked from behind him. "No." Cal didn't push. He just stood there, a solid presence in a world that felt like it was shifting under Wyatt's boots. Rex pulled up on his Harley 10 minutes later, followed by Dawson in the back of a patrol car. The officer dropped Dawson off at the gas station and gave him a nod before pulling away. "Both suspects booked," Dawson said, walking over. "Assault, battery, breaking and entering, intimidation. The tall one's name is Travis Deacon. The short one is Mick Farley. Both have priors a mile long. Meth, theft, assault. They're not getting out anytime soon." "What about the debt?" Wyatt asked. Dawson hesitated. The cop said it's a known situation. Emma's father, a guy named Warren Hope, was a regular at underground poker games run by a guy named Silas Drake. Warren racked up debts. When he OD'd, Silas decided the debt passed to the next of kin. "That's not how debts work," Rex said. "It is when you're a guy like Silas Drake." Dawson lowered his voice. "Wyatt, this isn't just 2 meth heads shaking down a girl. Silas runs things in this part of the county. Drugs, gambling, loan sharking. He's got people in his pocket. The cop basically told me, off the record, that they've been trying to build a case on Silas for 2 years, but nobody will testify." Wyatt flicked his cigarette to the ground and crushed it under his boot. "So Travis and Mick go to jail. Then what? Silas sends 2 more? "That's what the cops seem to think, yeah." Cal shook his head slowly. "This girl and her sister, they're not safe." "No," Wyatt said, "they're not." He looked at his brothers, one by one. Dawson, who cracked his knuckles and stared at the ground. Rex, who for once had nothing funny to say. Cal, whose old eyes burned with something fierce and quiet. "What are we doing, Wyatt?" Rex asked. Not challenging, genuinely asking. Wyatt thought about Grace. He thought about the phone call he'd just made. He thought about Lily's hands gripping his vest. He thought about Emma saying she had $43 in her checking account and the way her voice didn't shake when she said it. Because she'd been broke so long, it didn't even register as pain anymore. "We're not leaving yet," Wyatt said. Nobody argued. They rode to the county hospital. It was 20 minutes south, a small brick building that looked like it hadn't been renovated since the 80s. The waiting room smelled like bleach and stale vending machine coffee. A television mounted to the wall played the news with the volume too low to hear. Wyatt walked to the front desk. Emma Holt, brought in by ambulance about 30 minutes ago. The nurse checked her screen. Are you family? Yes, Wyatt said without blinking. The nurse looked at the leather vest, the patches, the scar. She didn't ask anything else. Room 4, down the hall, second left. He found her in a bed with the curtain half drawn. Her face had been cleaned up. Butterfly bandages held a cut above her eyebrow together. Her ribs were wrapped. An IV dripped fluids into her arm. She looked small, smaller than before. Lily was asleep in the chair next to the bed, curled up like a cat, still wrapped in Cal's leather vest. Emma's good eye opened when she heard his boots. They gave me something for the pain, she said, her voice thick and drowsy. First time I felt this relaxed in months. Wyatt pulled a chair to the other side of the bed and sat down. Doc say anything? 2 fractured ribs, like she thought. Bruised kidney, sprained wrist, mild concussion. Emma recited it like a grocery list. Said I was lucky. Lucky? That's what she said. Could have been worse. Emma let out a laugh that had no humor in it. Story of my life. Could have been worse. Wyatt leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Emma, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. Okay. Who's Silas Drake? The change in Emma's face was immediate. The drowsiness vanished. Her body went rigid. Even through the painkillers, fear cut through like a knife through butter. How do you know that name? The cops told my brother, said your father owed him money, said Silas thinks you inherited the debt. Emma's jaw clenched. She turned her head away and stared at the wall. For a long time she didn't speak. When she finally did, her voice was barely above a whisper. My father was a weak man, Wyatt. I loved him, but he was weak. He gambled. He drank. He borrowed money from people you should never borrow from. And when it caught up to him, he swallowed a bottle of pills and left me and Lily to deal with it. She paused. Her throat worked hard. Silas Drake showed up at the funeral. At the funeral, Wyatt stood right there in the back of the church, wearing a gray suit, and waited until everyone left. Then he walked up to me while I was still standing at my father's casket and said, Warren owed me $5,000. I expect it by the end of the month. I was holding Lily's hand. She was standing right there. What did you say? I told him I didn't have it. He smiled. That's what scared me the most. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He just smiled and said, You'll find a way. Then he walked out. And after that, the phone calls started, then the visits. Always different people, always the same message. Pay up. 3 weeks ago, someone slashed my tires. Last week, someone left a dead cat on my porch. Lily found it before I did. She screamed so loud the neighbors came out. Emma's hand found the bedsheet and twisted it. And this morning, Travis and Mick kicked in my door at 6 a.m. They said Silas was done waiting. Wyatt sat very still. His face didn't change, but inside something locked into place. Like a gear shifting. Like a decision being made that couldn't be unmade. Where does Silas operate? He asked. Wyatt, no. Where? You can't go after Silas Drake. He's not like Travis and Mick. Those two are dogs. Silas is the one holding the leash. He's got money. He's got connections. People around here are afraid of him. Even the cops. I'm not from around here, Wyatt said, and I'm not afraid of him. You should be. Maybe, but your little sister ran barefoot across a highway this morning because she had nobody else. That means every system that was supposed to protect you already failed. The cops, the neighbors, the town, all of it. And if we ride out of here today, Silas sends someone else next week. And maybe next time, Lily can't run fast enough. Emma stared at him. Tears gathered in her one good eye but didn't fall. Why do you care? You don't know us. You were just passing through. Wyatt looked at Lily, still sleeping in the chair, her little chest rising and falling. He thought about Grace. He thought about 4 years of silence. He thought about every time he should have been there and wasn't. "Because I have a daughter I haven't seen in 4 years," he said, "and I couldn't save her from what I put her through. But I'm sitting here right now, and you're sitting here right now, and that little girl over there thinks I'm the guy who saved her sister. I'm not going to prove her wrong." Emma's tear finally fell. She wiped it quickly, like she was angry at herself for crying. "You can't fight Silas with fists, Wyatt. He doesn't work like that." "Then we won't use fists." He stood up. "Get some rest. I'll be back." "Where are you going?" "To find out everything I can about Silas Drake." He walked out of the room and down the hallway, his boots echoing on the tile. Cal was waiting by the vending machine, arms crossed. "How is she?" Cal asked. "Scared, hurt, but tough." "And the situation?" "Bigger than two meth heads." Wyatt looked at Cal. "There's a guy named Silas Drake running gambling and loan sharking in this area. He's the one who sent those two after Emma. Her father owed him money. Now he's collecting from her." Cal's expression didn't change. He'd been in the game long enough that nothing surprised him anymore. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking we need to have a conversation with Silas Drake." "And what kind of conversation are we talking about?" "The kind where he understands that Emma Holt's debt is paid. Permanently." Cal studied him for a long moment. "Wyatt, you know I'll follow you anywhere. I've followed you through worse. But I need to know, is this about Emma and Lily, or is this about Grace?" The question hit Wyatt like a fist to the sternum. He didn't answer right away. He looked down at his boots, then at the fluorescent lights buzzing above them, then back at Cal. "Both," he said honestly. "It's about both." Cal nodded. "Good, because if you'd said it wasn't about Grace, I'd have known you were lying. And a man who lies to himself can't protect anyone." They walked out to the parking lot where Dawson and Rex were leaning against their bikes. "So?" Dawson asked. "We need information on a man named Silas Drake," Wyatt said. "He runs an underground operation in this county. Gambling, loans, possibly drugs. He's the one who put the hit on Emma." Rex pulled out his phone. "I know a guy. Used to ride with the Knoxville chapter. He's been doing repo work and skip tracing for 3 years. If Silas Drake has a record, a business, or an address, Nikki can find it. Call him." Rex walked away with his phone to his ear. Dawson cracked his neck and looked at Wyatt with those steady blue eyes. "How deep are we going on this?" "As deep as we need to." "And the brothers? The rest of the chapter?" Wyatt thought about it. They had 9 members total in their writing group, but only 4 were here. The others were scattered across Tennessee. "We keep it tight for now, the 4 of us. If it escalates, we call for backup. And if Silas Drake decides to escalate first, then he finds out what happens when you mess with the wrong people." Rex came back 5 minutes later, his face carrying new information. "Nikki found him. Silas Drake, 54 years old, owns a property management company on paper, runs a poker room out of a warehouse on Route 9, about 12 miles east of here. He's got a record, fraud, racketeering charges that got dropped in 2019. 2 known associates, guess who? Travis Deacon and Mick Farley." "The same 2 we just put on the floor," Dawson said. "Exactly. But here's the thing. Nikki says Drake's operation has been shrinking. He used to run a bigger network, but a federal investigation 2 years ago spooked half his guys. He's down to a handful of enforcers and a few gambling dens. He's not some kingpin. He's a bully with a business card." "So he's desperate," Cal said. "Desperate enough to send 2 thugs to beat up a 22-year-old girl over $5,000. Yeah." Rex put his phone away. "Nikki also said something else. Drake's got a brother on the county commission. That's why the cops can't touch him. Every time they get close, the case gets buried." Wyatt absorbed all of it. He could feel the pieces clicking together like a puzzle he hadn't asked to solve, but couldn't walk away from. A dead father's gambling debt. A predator squeezing a girl who had nothing. A corrupt county commission protecting him. And in the middle of it all, a 5-year-old girl who ran barefoot to a gas station because she didn't know what else to do. Route 9, Wyatt said. The warehouse. Tonight? Rex asked. No, not yet. First we go back to the gas station. We talk to Darlene. I want to know everything this town knows about Silas Drake. Every story, every rumor, every person he squeezed. Because we're not going in blind, and we're not going in stupid. They rode back to the gas station. Darlene was behind the counter, same as before, but her face was different now. The guarded politeness was gone. When the bikers walked in, she came around the counter and hugged Wyatt. He wasn't expecting it. His arms hung at his sides for a second before he awkwardly patted her back. That girl, Darlene said, pulling back, her eyes red. I've watched Emma come in here for months, buying the cheapest bread, counting quarters for milk. And I never asked if she was okay. I just rang her up and let her walk out. You called 911 today, Wyatt said. That counts. It's not enough and you know it. Wyatt didn't argue, because she was right. Darlene made fresh coffee and sat down with them at the corner booth. And she talked. For 20 minutes straight she talked. About Silas Drake. About how he'd been running his operation for over a decade. About the families he'd squeezed. The Millers who sold their farm below value to pay him off. The Hendersons, whose son disappeared after refusing to pay a debt, and the police ruled it a voluntary departure. About how everyone knew but nobody spoke because speaking meant consequences. He owns this town's fear, Darlene said. That's his real business. Not anymore, Wyatt said. Darlene looked at him, really looked at him. You mean that? Yes, ma'am. Then you should talk to Pastor Gene at the Methodist Church on Oak Street. He's been trying to organize people against Silas for years. Nobody listens. But if someone like you walked in there, someone Silas can't bully, it might change things. Wyatt looked at his brothers. Rex shrugged. Dawson nodded. Cal just sipped his coffee, but the corner of his mouth twitched, the closest thing to a smile the old man ever gave. Where's Oak Street? Wyatt asked. Back at the hospital, Emma lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The painkillers had dulled everything to a foggy haze, but her mind was sharp. She was thinking about what Wyatt had said, about Grace, about a man who hadn't seen his daughter in 4 years and was still carrying her everywhere he went. She looked at Lily, still curled up in the chair, and something inside her tightened. Not pain, something fiercer. She reached for her phone on the bedside table. The screen was cracked from this morning, but it still worked. She opened her contacts and scrolled to a name she hadn't called in over a year. Uncle Ray, her father's older brother. A man who had cut ties with Warren years ago because of the gambling. A man who had a good job, a clean house, and a standing invitation that Emma had been too proud to accept. She pressed call. It rang twice. Emma, his voice was surprised, cautious, hopeful. Uncle Ray, her voice cracked. I need help. Silence. Then, tell me everything. And she did. Uncle Ray arrived at the hospital 4 hours later. He drove a Ford F-150, clean and waxed, with Tennessee plates and a small American flag sticker on the back window. He was 58, barrel-chested, with thinning gray hair and the kind of face that looked like it had been carved from honest work in early mornings. He hadn't seen Emma in 14 months. He hadn't seen Lily since she was 3. He walked into room 4 and stopped in the doorway. Emma saw him and her whole face crumpled. Not from pain, from relief. From the shame of waiting so long to call. From the knowledge that she should have called months ago, before the threats, before the dead cat on the porch, before 2 men kicked down her door at 6 in the morning. Uncle Ray, she whispered. He crossed the room in 3 steps and wrapped his arms around her. Carefully, gently, like he already knew about the ribs. I'm here, he said. I'm right here, sweetheart. Lily woke up in the chair. She blinked at the stranger, confused, pulling Cal's leather vest tighter around her shoulders. Lily, this is Uncle Ray, Emma said, wiping her eyes. Daddy's brother. You met him when you were little. Ray knelt down and smiled at her. Last time I saw you, you were eating mashed peas and throwing most of them at my shirt. Lily almost smiled. Almost. I don't like peas. Nobody does, honey. Nobody does. Ray pulled a chair close to Emma's bed and sat down. His face changed. The warmth stayed, but underneath it, something harder surfaced. Tell me about Silas Drake. Emma's body tensed. How do you know about Silas? You told me on the phone. 2 men came for a debt your father owed. I need to know everything, Emma. All of it. She told him. Everything she'd told Wyatt, and more. About the funeral visit, about the escalation, about the months of living in fear, jumping at every sound, checking the locks 3 times before bed, sleeping with a kitchen knife under her pillow, while her 5-year-old sister slept in the next room. Ray listened without interrupting. His hands gripped his knees so hard his knuckles went white. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. Your father, Ray finally said, his voice thick, was my brother, and I loved him, but he made a mess of his life, and he left that mess on your doorstep, and that is something I will never forgive him for. He was sick, Uncle Ray. I know he was sick. But sick doesn't excuse what happened to you this morning. Sick doesn't excuse a 5-year-old running down a highway barefoot. Ray's voice cracked and he caught it, held it together. I should have checked on you. After Warren died, I should have driven down here and brought you home. That's on me. I told you I was fine. And I believed you because it was easier than driving 4 hours. He shook his head. We're done with that. Both of us. You and Lily are coming to Knoxville with me, tonight. I can't just leave. My job, the house, our things. Emma, your door is broken. Your ribs are broken. And the man who sent those 2 animals to your house is still out there. There is nothing in that house worth more than your life. She knew he was right. She'd known it for months. But hearing someone say it out loud, someone who meant it, someone who was offering a way out, it shattered the last wall she'd built around the lies she'd been telling herself that she could handle this alone. Okay, she said quietly. Okay, Ray squeezed her hand. Now, where are these bikers I need to thank? Wyatt and his crew were 2 miles away, standing in the gravel parking lot of the Oak Street Methodist Church. It was a small white building with a wooden cross above the door and a sign out front that read, All are welcome. The paint on the sign was peeling. Like everything else in this town, it had been neglected. Pastor Gene Turner came to the door before they even knocked. He was 61, lean, with wire-rimmed glasses and the cautious eyes of a man who had learned that faith didn't protect you from everything. He looked at the 4 bikers on his doorstep and didn't flinch. Darlene called me, he said. She told me what you did for Emma Holt. Can we come in? Wyatt asked. Please. They sat in the first pew. The church was empty. Their boots sounded loud against the wooden floor. Pastor Gene stood in front of them, arms crossed, studying them the way a man studies a hand of cards before deciding whether to bet. You want to know about Silas Drake, the pastor said. It wasn't a question. We want to know everything, Wyatt replied. Pastor Gene took off his glasses and cleaned them with his shirt. A habit, Wyatt guessed. A way to buy time while he decided how much to trust. Silas Drake has been a cancer in this community for 15 years. He started with a small poker game in his garage. By the time anyone realized what was happening, he owned 3 properties, had a dozen people in debt to him, and his brother Dale was sitting on the county commission. Dale Drake, Dawson said, the one protecting him. Protecting is a generous word, enabling. Dale makes sure any investigation into Silas gets defunded or redirected. 2 years ago, the state police opened a racketeering case. It was solid. Witnesses, financial records. Then Dale pulled strings with a state senator he'd done favors for, and the case was shelved. Just like that. Rex shook his head. So the law can't touch him. The law won't touch him, Pastor Gene corrected. There's a difference. I've been gathering information on Silas for 3 years. Testimonies from people he's extorted. Records of properties he seized below market value. I've got a file thicker than a Bible. Why haven't you done anything with it? Cal asked. Pastor Gene looked at him. Because every person who agreed to testify eventually backed out. Silas doesn't threaten you directly. He's smarter than that. He threatens the people you love. He threatened Frank Miller's granddaughter. Told him she'd have an accident on her way to school. Frank sold his farm the next day. He threatened Janet Henderson's elderly mother. Said things would happen at her nursing home. Janet stopped cooperating with police immediately. Wyatt felt his jaw tighten. So he controls people through their families, through their fear, which is worse. Because you can fight a man, you can't fight what he might do to the people you care about. The church was silent. The weight of what Pastor Gene was describing settled over all of them. This wasn't a simple bully. This was a system, a machine built on fear, oiled by corruption, and protected by power. What if someone wasn't afraid? Wyatt asked. Pastor Gene put his glasses back on and looked at Wyatt for a long time. Then Silas Drake would have a problem he's never had before. He's got that problem now. The pastor studied him. You're serious? I don't say things I don't mean. Then let me show you what I have. Pastor Gene led them to a small office behind the sanctuary. He unlocked a filing cabinet and pulled out a thick manila folder. Inside were handwritten testimonies, photocopied financial records, photographs of properties, and a timeline of Silas Drake's activities dating back to 2009. Wyatt spread the papers on the desk and studied them. Dawson read over his shoulder. Rex took photos of everything with his phone. Cal stood by the door, watching, listening, his mind already working 3 steps ahead. This is good, Wyatt said, but it's not enough to bring him down if the county blocks it. That's why I couldn't move forward, Pastor Gene said. Every legal avenue runs through the county, and the county runs through Dale Drake. Then we go over the county, Cal said. Everyone looked at him. Cal walked to the desk and tapped a page in the file. Federal. This is racketeering, extortion across county lines. If Silas has operations or victims in more than one county, it's federal jurisdiction. The county commission can't block the FBI. Pastor Gene blinked. I never thought of, that's because you've been fighting this alone, Cal said. And a man fighting alone only sees what's in front of him. Wyatt looked at Cal with something close to admiration. The old man never stopped surprising him. 63 years old, gray beard, leather vest, and a mind sharp enough to find the crack in a wall that everyone else had been banging their heads against for years. Do you know anyone federal? Wyatt asked Cal. I know a retired ATF agent in Nashville, woman named Patricia Vance. She owes me a favor from 2016. She's retired, but she's still connected. If we bring her this file, she can get it to the right people. Do it, Wyatt said. Call her today. Cal nodded and stepped outside to make the call. Wyatt turned back to Pastor Gene. In the meantime, I need a list. Every person Silas has extorted, threatened, or squeezed in this county. Every single one. Can you get that? I can, but most of them won't talk. They don't have to talk yet. They just have to know that someone's finally standing up. That changes things. I've seen it. One person stands up, and suddenly the ones behind them find their legs. Pastor Gene removed his glasses again. His eyes were red. I've been praying for this, for years. I've been standing in that pulpit asking God to send somebody, and he sends 4 bikers on Harleys. He let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. The Lord works in mysterious ways, doesn't even begin to cover it. Wyatt almost smiled. Almost. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Wyatt, this is Ray Holt, Emma's uncle. I'm at the hospital. Emma told me what you did. I'd like to meet. Can you come back to the hospital? Wyatt showed the text to Dawson. Looks like the family's stepping up, Dawson said. Good, they need to. They rode back to the hospital. Ray was waiting in the lobby, standing straight, hands in his jacket pockets. He watched the bikers walk in and stepped forward immediately, extending his hand to Wyatt. Ray Holt, he said. His handshake was firm, solid. The handshake of a man who built things with his hands and kept his word with his backbone. Wyatt Greer. I want you to know something, Ray said, looking Wyatt dead in the eye. Whatever you need from me, money, time, a place for those girls to stay, you have it. No questions asked. We don't need your money, sir. It's not about money. It's about making this right. My brother left a debt and a disaster, and I should have cleaned it up months ago. I'm here now. Tell me what I can do. Wyatt respected him instantly. No excuses, no deflection. Just a man stepping into the mess and asking where to start. Take Emma and Lily to Knoxville tonight, Wyatt said. Get them out of this county. Get them settled somewhere safe. Don't tell anyone where they are. Not the neighbors, not Emma's co-workers, nobody. Done. After that, Emma needs a lawyer. A real one, not a county attorney, someone who handles federal cases. Ray nodded. My wife's cousin is a criminal defense attorney in Nashville. She'll know who to call. Good. And one more thing. Wyatt lowered his voice. Silas Drake thinks Emma owes him $5,000. When we're done, he's going to understand that she doesn't owe him a single cent. But until that happens, she needs to be invisible. Can you make that happen? She'll be at my house. Gated community, security system. My wife's a retired nurse. She'll take care of both of them. Wyatt nodded. Then we're good. There's something else, Ray said, his voice dropping. I went to Emma's house on the way here. Wanted to grab some of Lily's things. Clothes, her stuffed animal, some books. And? Ray's face darkened. Somebody had been there. After the police left, the place was tossed. Drawers emptied, mattresses flipped. Whatever they were looking for, they tore that house apart to find it. Wyatt's blood went cold. Silas's people. Has to be. Travis and Mick are in jail, so he sent someone else. Already. Dawson swore under his breath. Rex clenched his fists. Cal, who had just come back inside from his phone call, stopped in his tracks. How fast? Rex said. The cops haven't even finished the paperwork and he's already sending people back? He's sending a message, Cal said quietly. He's letting everyone know that arrests don't change anything, that he still controls the situation. Wyatt's mind was racing. Silas was faster than he'd expected, more brazen. The man didn't just think he was above the law, he knew he was, and he was proving it in real time. Did they take anything? Wyatt asked Ray. I don't think so. Emma doesn't have anything worth taking, but they left something. Ray reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He handed it to Wyatt. Wyatt unfolded it. Written in black marker, block letters, the debt doesn't die, neither does the interest. Rex looked over his shoulder and read it. This guy's a real poet. This guy just threatened a woman who's in a hospital bed, Dawson said, his voice hard, while her 5-year-old sister sleeps in the chair next to her. Wyatt folded the note and put it in his vest pocket, right next to the phone he'd used to call Grace. The two things sat together against his chest, a message of hate and an act of love, and the weight of both pressed against his heart. Cal, Wyatt said, Patricia Vance, what did she say? Cal stepped forward. She's in. She wants to see the file. She says if it's as strong as we described, she can get it to a contact at the FBI field office in Memphis within 48 hours. But she needs originals, not copies. And she needs at least one person willing to give a statement on record. One witness, Wyatt said. One. That's all they need to open an investigation. Wyatt looked at Ray. Can Emma do it? Ray hesitated. She's scared, Wyatt. She's been terrorized for months. Asking her to put her name on a federal statement against a man who just sent people to ransack her house. I'll do it. Everyone turned. Emma was standing in the hallway. She'd pulled out her IV. She was barefoot, wearing a hospital gown, one arm wrapped around her ribs, her face bruised and swollen, but she was standing. Emma, you need to be in bed, Ray started. I heard everything. Her voice shook, but it held. I heard what the pastor said. I heard about the Millers, the Hendersons. I heard about all the people who were too scared to talk. She took a breath that clearly cost her. I've been scared for 6 months. I've been looking over my shoulder every single day. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. I almost stopped leaving the house. And this morning, my baby sister ran barefoot to a gas station because I couldn't protect her. She looked at Wyatt. I'm done being scared. If they need a witness, they have one. The hallway was dead silent. Wyatt looked at her, bruised, broken, barely standing, and he saw something he recognized. The same thing he'd seen in soldiers, in brothers, in men and women who had been pushed to the edge and decided to push back. Not courage, something rawer than courage, desperation that had been refined into determination. You sure? He asked. He left a note in my house, Wyatt, in my daughter's, my sister's bedroom. While she was gone, he was in the room where she sleeps. Emma's voice broke, and when it came back, it was made of steel. I will stand in front of a judge, a jury, and God himself, and I will tell them everything Silas Drake has done. Every phone call, every threat, every name, everything. Cal walked up to Emma and extended his hand. She took it. His old, weathered fingers closed around hers, and he looked at her with eyes that had seen 63 years of hard road. You just changed everything, Cal said. Behind them, soft footsteps. Lily appeared in the hallway, dragging Cal's leather vest behind her like a cape. She looked up at her sister with wide, worried eyes. Emma, are you okay? You're supposed to be in bed. Emma knelt down, wincing, and took Lily's hands. I'm okay, baby. I'm better than okay. Are the bad men coming back? Emma pulled her close. No, they're not coming back. Not ever again. Lily pressed her face into Emma's shoulder. Promise? I promise. Wyatt watched them, and he thought about a phone call to Oregon that went to voicemail. He pulled out his phone and checked it. No missed calls, no messages. Grace hadn't called back. But then he saw something. A text notification from an unknown number with an Oregon area code. He opened it. Dad, is this really you? Wyatt's heart stopped. His thumb hovered over the screen. The words blurred because his eyes were filling with something he hadn't allowed in years. He blinked hard, swallowed harder. He typed back, Yeah, baby, it's really me. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. I've been waiting for you to call. Wyatt put his phone against his forehead and closed his eyes. His chest heaved once, just once. Then he steadied himself, opened his eyes, and typed, I'm sorry it took so long. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. He put the phone back in his pocket and looked up. Cal was watching him. The old man didn't ask. He didn't need to. He just gave that single nod, the one that meant everything, and turned back toward the others. Ray was already on the phone with his wife, giving instructions. Dawson was texting the coordinates of Silas's warehouse to Nikki for further recon. Rex was on the phone with the local hardware store, arranging to have Emma's front door replaced and deadbolts installed before Silas's people could come back again. And Pastor Gene, who had followed them to the hospital after closing the church, stood in the corner of the waiting room with his manila folder pressed against his chest, his lips moving silently in a prayer he'd been waiting 3 years to pray. The pieces were moving, all of them, converging toward a point that none of them could see yet, but all of them could feel. Somewhere 12 miles east, in a warehouse on Route 9, Silas Drake was sitting behind a desk, pouring whiskey into a glass, and wondering why Travis and Mick hadn't checked in. His phone rang. It was his lawyer. Travis and Mick got arrested. Assault and battery. Some bikers intervened. Silas set his glass down. Bikers? Hell's Angels, 4 of them. Apparently the girl's little sister ran to them for help. Silas was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed, low and slow. Hell's Angels, in my county, that's funny. Silas, this could draw attention. The state, the state doesn't care about a domestic dispute in a trailer park. Handle the bail for Travis and Mick. I want them out by morning. And the bikers? Silas picked up his glass again and took a long sip. Find out who they are, where they're from, who they ride with. I want names by tonight. He hung up and stared at the wall. For the first time in 15 years, someone had walked into his territory and hit back. 4 men on motorcycles, strangers, passing through. He wasn't worried, not yet. He dealt with bigger problems. He dealt with cops, with federal agents, with rival operators. 4 bikers were nothing. But something nagged at him. Something about the way his lawyer had described it. The little sister ran to them. She ran to strangers. That meant the woman had nobody. No family, no protection, no resources. That was supposed to make this easy. That was the whole point. And yet somehow she'd found 4 men willing to fight for her in a gas station parking lot. Silas didn't believe in coincidence. He believed in control. And for the first time in a very long time, he felt something he didn't recognize at first because it had been so long since he'd felt it. Uncertainty. He finished his whiskey and poured another. Ray drove Emma and Lily out of the hospital parking lot at exactly 6:47 that evening. Emma sat in the back seat with Lily buckled in beside her, the little girl's head resting against her sister's arm, her eyes half closed from exhaustion. Cal's leather vest was still draped over her shoulders. She refused to take it off. Emma stared out the window and watched the town shrink behind them. The gas station, the church steeple, the turnoff toward the house with the blue door where, 12 hours ago, her life had nearly ended. She didn't cry. She'd used up every tear her body had. What was left was something hollow and humming, like the vibration after a bell stops ringing. Her phone buzzed. A text from Wyatt. "You're doing the right thing. Stay safe. We'll handle the rest." She typed back, "Don't let him hurt anyone else." "We won't." She put the phone down and looked at Lily. The little girl had fallen asleep, her mouth slightly open, her small hand still gripping the edge of the vest. 5 years old, barefoot on gravel, running toward strangers because the world had given her no one else. Emma pressed her lips to Lily's forehead and held them there. "I'm going to fix this," she whispered. "I swear to God, I'm going to fix this." 4 hours later, Ray's truck pulled into the driveway of a quiet house in a gated neighborhood outside Knoxville. Ray's wife, Margaret, was already at the door. She was 55, silver-haired, with soft hands and a voice that sounded like warm water. She didn't ask questions. She took one look at Emma's face and pulled her inside. "The guest room's ready," Margaret said. "There's soup on the stove and clean towels in the bathroom. Lily can sleep in the room next to yours." "Thank you," Emma said. The word felt inadequate, like using a teaspoon to measure the ocean. Margaret touched Emma's cheek, the one that wasn't bruised. "Your family. You don't thank family for doing what they should have done a long time ago." Emma's chest tightened. She nodded and carried Lily upstairs. The little girl barely stirred as Emma laid her on the bed, tucked a blanket around her, and placed a stuffed rabbit Margaret had found in a closet beside her pillow. Lily's hand found it instinctively, pulling it close. Emma sat on the edge of the bed and watched her sister breathe. In and out. Steady. Safe. For the first time in 6 months, she believed it. Back in the small town, Wyatt and his crew didn't sleep. They parked their bikes at the gas station, which Darlene had offered as a base of operations after closing for the night. She left the coffee pot on and the back door unlocked. "Whatever you boys need," she said. "I'll be at home, praying hard." Cal had spent 2 hours on the phone with Patricia Vance, the retired ATF agent in Nashville. She'd agreed to drive down the next morning to review Pastor Gene's file. But she'd also said something that changed the calculus. "She told me something interesting," Cal said, setting his phone on the counter. "Silas Drake's brother Dale, the county commissioner, is up for re-election in 4 months. He's already under scrutiny for a zoning scandal, Patricia says the FBI has had Dale on a watch list for 18 months. Not active investigation, just monitoring. But if we can connect Dale to Silas's criminal operation with solid evidence, it gives the feds a reason to open a full case. Two birds, one stone. So we don't just take down Silas, Dawson said. We take down the shield. Exactly. Cut the protection, and Silas is just another criminal with a record in a warehouse full of evidence. Wyatt paced the length of the diner counter, thinking. His mind worked like an engine, methodical, relentless, turning over every possibility. We need the connection between Dale and Silas on paper. Financial transactions, emails, phone records, something that proves Dale actively interfered with investigations to protect his brother. Rex held up his phone. Nicky's already digging. He found something in the county records, a property on Route 9, the warehouse where Silas operates. It's registered to a shell company called DSD Holdings. DSD, Dale, Silas, Drake. They put their initials in the company name? Dawson said, incredulous. Arrogance, Cal said. Men who think they're untouchable get sloppy. DSD Holdings also owns 3 other properties in the county, Rex continued. A storage facility, a vacant lot, and a house on Elm Street that's listed as a rental but has no tenants on record. Nicky thinks that's where Silas runs his poker games. Wyatt stopped pacing. So Dale co-owns the properties where Silas conducts illegal operations. That's the connection. On paper, at least, Patricia says that's enough to justify subpoenas. Once the feds start pulling financial records, the whole thing unravels. How fast? She said if she gets the file tomorrow and her contact moves on it, we could see federal agents in this county within a week. A week's a long time, Wyatt said. Silas already sent people back to Emma's house today. He's not going to sit still. No, Cal agreed. He's not. Wyatt pulled the folded note from his vest pocket, the one left in Emma's house. The debt doesn't die, neither does the interest. He laid it on the counter. This man is used to controlling everything. His people, the cops, the community. We've disrupted that. He's going to push back. Hard. So what do we do in the meantime? Rex asked. Wyatt looked at each of his brothers. We make sure he pushes back against us. Not Emma, not Lily, not Pastor Jean, not anyone in this town who can't defend themselves. If Silas wants a fight, he gets one. With us. Dawson cracked his knuckles. I was hoping you'd say that. But we do this smart, Wyatt continued. No going to the warehouse, no confrontation. Not yet. We make noise. We let him know we're here and we're not leaving. We talk to people in town. We let them see us. When Silas sends his people to check us out, and he will, we stand our ground and we wait. The moment he makes a move, we document it. Everything goes to Patricia. Everything builds the case. Bait, Cal said, a faint smile crossing his weathered face. You want to use us as bait. Silas doesn't know we're building a federal case. He thinks we're just 4 bikers who got lucky this morning. He's going to underestimate us. That's his mistake. Cal nodded slowly. It's a good plan. Dangerous, but good. Wyatt's phone rang. Unknown number. Local area code. He answered. Yeah. Is this Wyatt Greer? A man's voice. Smooth. Controlled. Like oil sliding over glass. Who's asking? My name is Silas Drake. I believe you and I have a mutual acquaintance. The room went still. Rex straightened up. Dawson's hand instinctively moved to his side. Cal's eyes narrowed. Wyatt put the phone on speaker and set it on the counter. I'm listening. You had a busy morning, Mr. Greer. I hear you paid a visit to a house that belongs to a friend of mine, and you put 2 of my associates in the hospital. They're in jail, actually, and the house doesn't belong to your friend. It belongs to a 22-year-old girl they were beating half to death. That's a matter of perspective. No, it's not. It's a matter of 2 fractured ribs, a bruised kidney, and a 5-year-old girl running barefoot down a highway. There's no perspective that makes that okay. Silas was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, the smoothness was still there, but something harder lurked underneath. I respect directness, Mr. Greer, so let me be direct. Warren Holt owed me money, a significant sum. When Warren died, that debt transferred to his next of kin. That's how business works. That's not how the law works. The law and I have an understanding. So I've heard. But here's the thing, Silas. I don't care about your understanding with the law. I care about a little girl who grabbed my vest this morning and begged me to save her sister. And I care about the woman I carried out of that house who has nothing except a minimum wage job and a kid's sister she's raising alone. You sent men to beat $5,000 out of her. She doesn't have $500. That sounds like her problem. It was her problem. Now it's mine. Another pause, longer this time. Wyatt could hear ice clinking in a glass on the other end of the line. You're passing through, Mr. Greer. That's what I've been told. You and your friends were on a ride, a pit stop, an unfortunate coincidence. I'm offering you a professional courtesy. Ride on. Leave this county. Forget the girl. Forget the debt. Forget this phone call. You'll be on the highway by morning, and none of this will follow you. And if I don't, then I'll have to assume you're choosing to involve yourself in something that is none of your concern, and I'll have to respond accordingly. Wyatt looked at Cal. The old man's face was stone. He looked at Dawson, whose jaw was clenched so tight a vein pulsed in his temple. He looked at Rex, who mouthed 2 words. Screw him. Silas, Wyatt said, leaning toward the phone, let me tell you something about the Hells Angels. We don't ride away from anything. We ride toward it. And right now, the only direction I'm riding is straight at you. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but I've made worse ones, and I'm still here. This isn't Memphis, Mr. Greer. This isn't a bar fight. This is my town. It's not your town. It's a town full of people you've been terrorizing for 15 years who are too scared to say it. That ends now. Silas's voice dropped, cold, precise. I will make you regret this. You can try. The line went dead. Nobody spoke for 10 seconds. Then Rex exhaled. Well, that was fun. He knows who you are, Cal said. He's done his homework. Good, Wyatt said. That means he's paying attention. It also means he knows where we are. I'm counting on it. Dawson stood up and walked to the window. He peered out into the dark parking lot. We should set up a watch rotation. 2 on, 2 off. If he sends people tonight, I want to see them coming. Agreed, Wyatt said. Rex and I take first watch. Cal and Dawson, get some rest. Cal didn't argue. He'd learned decades ago that rest wasn't a luxury, it was ammunition. He stretched out on a booth bench, tipped his hat over his eyes, and was asleep in 3 minutes. Dawson took the booth across from him, arms crossed, eyes closed, breathing steady. Wyatt and Rex sat by the front window. The parking lot was empty except for their 4 Harleys and Darlene's beat-up Subaru. The road beyond was dark, no streetlights, just the occasional sweep of headlights from a passing truck. Rex was quiet for a long time, which was unusual. Then he said something Wyatt wasn't expecting. You ever think about getting out? Out of what? This, the club, the road, all of it. Wyatt didn't answer right away. He watched a moth circle the gas station's single functioning light. Sometimes. What stops you? Where would I go? I've got no house, no job, haven't had a real address in 6 years. The club is the only family I've got. That's not true anymore, Rex said. You've got Grace. Wyatt's hand went to his pocket. The phone. The text. I've been waiting for you to call. 7 words from his daughter that had rearranged something inside him that he thought was permanent. She texted me back, he said quietly. Rex looked at him. And? And she wants to talk. I told her I'd call her tomorrow. Are you going to? Yeah, I am. Rex nodded. Good, because you're a better man than you think you are, Wyatt. I've known you for 5 years, and I've watched you give everything to everyone else. The brothers, the club, every stranger who needed something. You pour yourself out like you're trying to make up for something, but you never pour anything back in. Wyatt stared at him. Rex had never talked like this before. The kid who cracked jokes about everything, who laughed to fill silence, who wore his recklessness like armor, was suddenly the most honest person in the room. When did you get so wise? Wyatt asked. I'm not wise. I just see what's in front of me. At 2:14 a.m., headlights appeared on the road, moving slowly, too slowly. They stopped about 200 yards from the gas station, idling. Wyatt nudged Rex. Both men stood. The vehicle sat there for 3 minutes. Then the lights cut off. Engine died. A door opened and closed. Footsteps on gravel. Getting closer, Wyatt moved to the door. Rex flanked to the right, positioning himself near the side window. A figure emerged from the darkness. Male, average height, thin, wearing a dark jacket and a baseball cap pulled low. He stopped about 20 feet from the gas station entrance and looked directly at the door. Wyatt opened it and stepped outside. Can I help you? The man didn't come closer. Just delivering a message. From Silas? From a concerned party. What's the message? The man reached into his jacket. Wyatt's body tensed. Rex moved to the doorway behind him. The man pulled out an envelope and tossed it on the ground between them. Open it when I'm gone. He turned and walked back toward the vehicle. Seconds later, the engine started, lights flipped on, and the car pulled away, disappearing down the dark road. Wyatt picked up the envelope. Inside was a single photograph. Emma's house, taken from outside. But not from today. This was older. Weeks, maybe months. Through the window, you could see Lily sitting at a kitchen table, drawing with crayons. On the back of the photo, handwritten, I always know where they are. Rex looked at the photo over Wyatt's shoulder. His usual grin was gone. His face was white. He's been watching them. For weeks. Months, Wyatt corrected. This is a threat. This is his biggest mistake. Wyatt held up the photo. This is evidence, stalking, surveillance, intimidation of a minor. This goes straight to Patricia Vance tomorrow morning, and it goes into the federal file. He slipped the photo into the envelope and put it in his vest. Right next to the note, right next to the phone that held Grace's messages. His vest was becoming a vault of everything that mattered. Wake Cal and Dawson, Wyatt said. Nobody sleeps until morning. By dawn, all 4 bikers were awake, armed with coffee and running on pure determination. Patricia Vance called Cal at 7:15 a.m. She was already on the road from Nashville and would arrive by 10. Wyatt used the time to call Ray. How are they? He asked. Lily slept through the night, first time in weeks, according to Emma. Emma herself barely slept. She was up at 5, writing down everything she could remember. Dates, names, phone numbers, descriptions. She's got 2 pages already. She's building her own testimony. She's a fighter, Wyatt. Quiet about it, but she's a fighter. I know she is. He paused. Ray, I need to tell you something. Silas sent someone to our location last night. They delivered a photo of Emma's house, a surveillance photo. Lily was in it. He's been watching them for months. Silence on the other end. Then Ray's voice came back, and it was different, harder, rawer. He photographed my niece through the window while she was drawing? Yes. I will kill him myself. No, you won't, because that's exactly what he wants. He wants someone to lose control. He wants a reason to play the victim. What we're going to do is bury him legally, federally, in a way he can't buy or threaten his way out of. Ray breathed heavily through the phone. Wyatt could hear him struggling with it, the rage fighting the reason. It took a full 30 seconds before Ray spoke again. You're right. I know you're right. But God help me, it's hard. I know, believe me, I know. What do you need from Emma? Her testimony, written, detailed. Every interaction with Silas or his people, starting from the funeral. Dates, locations, what was said, who was present. Patricia Vance will be here by 10. If Emma can email or fax her statement by then, Patricia can include it in the file she's presenting to the FBI. I'll have Emma call you directly. She'll want to talk to you. 10 minutes later, Wyatt's phone rang. Emma's number. Wyatt. Hey. Ray told me about the photo. Her voice was steady, but he could hear the anger underneath. Controlled. Focused. He was watching us, while Lily was drawing, sitting at her little table with her crayons. He was standing outside our window like we were animals in a cage. I know. I have 4 pages now, front and back. Every date I can remember, every phone call, every visit. The names Travis and Mick used when they came 3 weeks ago. The exact words Silas said to me at the funeral. I even found a voicemail I never deleted. Silas called me directly once, in September. I saved it because something told me I might need it. Wyatt almost dropped his coffee. You have a voicemail from Silas Drake. His voice, his number, saying, and I quote, Emma, your father's debt is now your responsibility. I suggest you take this seriously. I'm not a patient man. Emma, that's a direct threat from the target, recorded, with his voice and phone number attached. I know. That's the single most important piece of evidence in this entire case. I know that too. A pause. I told you I was done being scared, Wyatt. I meant it. He closed his eyes. This 22-year-old girl who had been beaten, stalked, terrorized, and abandoned by every system that should have protected her, had just handed them the key to everything. Don't delete that voicemail, he said. Don't let anyone touch your phone. Patricia Vance will need it preserved exactly as it is. It's not going anywhere. Neither am I. He hung up and turned to his brothers. Emma has a voicemail from Silas Drake. Direct threat. His voice. His number. Time-stamped. Cal set his coffee down and closed his eyes. When he opened them, there was something in them Wyatt had never seen before. Hope. That's the nail in the coffin, Cal said. Patricia's going to need that phone, Dawson said. Ray can drive it to her, or we can arrange a secure transfer through her FBI contact. Wyatt was already thinking 3 steps ahead. But there's something else. If Silas finds out Emma has that voicemail, he'll do everything he can to destroy it. We need to make sure he doesn't know. Not until the feds have it in their hands. Rex raised a finger. I'll have Nikki mirror her phone remotely, cloud backup of the voicemail, the call log, everything. Even if the phone gets destroyed, the evidence survives. Do it now. Rex was on the phone in seconds. At 10:08 a.m., a silver sedan pulled into the gas station lot. A woman stepped out, late 50s, short gray hair, sharp eyes behind wire-frame sunglasses. She wore a navy blazer over jeans and carried a leather briefcase that looked like it had seen the inside of 100 courtrooms. Patricia Vance. She walked up to Cal and shook his hand. You look older than the last time. I am older than the last time. Cal almost smiled. Patricia, this is Wyatt Greer. He's the one running point. Patricia turned to Wyatt and studied him the way a surgeon studies an X-ray. Cal tells me you've stumbled into something significant. We didn't stumble. A 5-year-old girl pushed us into it. Walk me through everything, from the beginning. They sat inside the gas station. Wyatt talked for 30 minutes straight. Every detail. The girl, the house, the assault, Silas Drake, Dale Drake, the shell company, Pastor Jean's file, the surveillance photo, the note, the phone call from Silas, and finally, Emma's voicemail. Patricia listened without interrupting. She took no notes. When Wyatt finished, she opened her briefcase and pulled out a yellow legal pad. The voicemail is the centerpiece, she said. Direct evidence of extortion from the primary target. Combined with the pastor's file, the property records linking Dale to the operation, the surveillance photo, and Emma's written testimony, this is more than enough to open a federal investigation. How fast? Wyatt asked. My contact at the Memphis field office is an assistant special agent in charge named David Chen. He's been looking for a way into rural corruption networks in East Tennessee for 2 years. This is exactly what he needs. I can have him on the phone by noon. If the evidence checks out, he can have agents on the ground within 72 hours. 72 hours, Wyatt repeated. Silas is already escalating. He sent someone to us last night. Then you need to stay visible and stay safe. Don't provoke, but don't retreat. If Silas makes another move, another threat, another messenger, another note, document everything and send it directly to me. Every action he takes between now and the arrest strengthens the case. She looked at all 4 of them. You understand what you've done here? 4 men on motorcycles just built a federal case that an entire county couldn't put together in 15 years. Because a little girl ran to you, and you didn't ride away. Cal looked at Wyatt. Dawson looked at the floor. Rex looked out the window at the road that had brought them here. Wyatt looked at the photo in his vest pocket. Lily at her kitchen table, drawing with crayons, watched by a monster through the glass. We haven't done anything yet, Wyatt said. Not until he's in handcuffs. Patricia nodded. Then let's finish it. She picked up her phone and dialed. David, it's Patricia Vance. I've got something you need to see. How soon can you meet? David Chen flew into Knoxville the next morning. He brought 2 agents with him and a federal warrant that covered every property registered under DSD Holdings. Patricia Vance met them at the airport and handed over Pastor Jean's file. Emma's written testimony, the surveillance photo, the note left at Emma's house, and a USB drive containing the mirrored voicemail from Emma's phone. Chen listened to the voicemail once. Then he played it again. Then he looked at Patricia and said, "This is clean." His voice, his number, his words. Combined with the financial trail and the witness statements, we have enough for arrest warrants on both brothers. Both? Patricia asked. Dale Drake co-owns the properties used for criminal enterprise. That makes him complicit, racketeering, conspiracy to commit extortion, obstruction of justice. He's going down with Silas. Patricia called Cal. Cal called Wyatt. Wyatt was standing in the gas station parking lot at 6 in the morning, his 3rd cup of coffee in hand, when the words hit him. It's happening, Cal said. 72 hours. They're executing the warrants day after tomorrow. Wyatt closed his eyes. For a moment, just one moment, he let himself feel it. Not victory, not relief, something quieter. The feeling of a gear finally clicking into place after grinding for days. Does Emma know? He asked. Not yet. Chen wants to brief her himself. He's sending an agent to Ray's house today to take her formal deposition. Good. She deserves to hear it from someone official. Wyatt, Chen said something else. He said this case could unravel the entire corruption network in the county. Not just Silas and Dale, everyone connected. The people who looked away, the officials who buried cases. He said this could change the town. Wyatt thought about Darlene, who rang up Emma's groceries and never asked if she was okay. About the neighbors who heard screams and closed their windows. About a whole community that had been suffocated by one man's grip for 15 years. It should change the town, Wyatt said. It needs to. The next 48 hours moved fast. Emma gave her deposition in Ray's living room. She sat at the kitchen table across from a federal agent named Torres, a woman in her 30s with kind eyes and a recorder between them. Emma spoke for 2 hours and 14 minutes. She didn't skip a single detail. She didn't cry. She didn't waver. Lily sat in the next room with Margaret, drawing pictures and eating animal crackers, unaware that her sister was dismantling a criminal empire one sentence at a time. When it was over, Torres turned off the recorder and looked at Emma. You're one of the bravest witnesses I've ever interviewed. I'm not brave, Emma said. I'm angry. There's a difference. In my experience, Torres said, the best witnesses are both. In the small town, Pastor Gene made phone calls. Quiet ones. One by one, he reached out to the people Silas had terrorized. Frank Miller, Janet Henderson, a woman named Ruth who ran a hair salon and had been paying Silas protection money for 6 years. A mechanic named Boyd who had been forced to service Silas's vehicles for free or risk losing his shop. It's happening, the pastor told each of them. The feds are coming. If you want to add your name to the case, now is the time. 5 people agreed, then 7, then 12. By the end of the second day, Pastor Gene had 19 written statements from 19 different victims, spanning 15 years of extortion, intimidation, and abuse. He drove them to Patricia Vance personally. 19, Patricia said, flipping through the pages. Silas Drake controlled this town with fear for a decade and a half. And in 72 hours, 19 people decided they'd had enough. 20, the pastor corrected. Emma was the first. On the morning of the third day, Wyatt's phone buzzed at 5:58 a.m. A text from Patricia. Warrants being executed at 6:30 a.m. Both targets, stay clear. Wyatt showed the text to his brothers. Nobody spoke. They sat in the gas station and waited. Rex's leg bounced. Dawson stared at the counter. Cal sipped his coffee with the patience of a man who had waited for harder things. At 6:34 a.m., Wyatt heard them. Not sirens, not helicopters, just the low rumble of multiple engines coming from the east. Federal vehicles, moving fast. Rex went to the window. 3 SUVs, black, headed toward Route 9. 4 minutes later, Wyatt's phone rang. Cal's contact on the ground, a retired sheriff who lived near the warehouse, called with a play-by-play. They're at the warehouse. Doors breached. Silas is inside. Yeah, they've got him. Hands behind his back. He's not fighting. He looks like he can't believe it's happening. Wyatt put the phone on speaker. Second team's at Dale Drake's house. He came to the door in his bathrobe. They're reading him his rights. His wife is screaming at the agents. Dale's not saying a word. He looks like a man who just watched his world end. Rex pumped his fist. Dawson let out a breath he'd been holding for 3 days. Cal set his coffee down and folded his hands. His lips moved silently. A prayer, maybe, or a thank you. Wyatt didn't celebrate. He picked up his phone and called Emma. She answered on the first ring. Is it done? It's done. They have Silas. They have Dale. Both in federal custody. Silence. Then a sound Wyatt recognized. The sound of someone breaking open after holding themselves together for too long. Emma cried. Not the quiet, controlled tears from the hospital. These were loud, ragged, full-body sobs that shook through the phone like an earthquake. Emma, you did this. No, she managed between breaths. Lily did this. She ran. She found you. Everything started because a 5-year-old girl ran. In the background, Wyatt heard a small voice. Emma? Why are you crying? Are you sad? Emma laughed through her tears. No, baby, I'm not sad. I'm happy. I'm so happy. Then why are you crying? Because sometimes happy is so big it comes out as tears. Lily paused. Then, that's weird. Emma laughed again. Real laughter. The kind Wyatt hadn't heard from her before. The kind that sounded like freedom. Wyatt, Emma said, pulling the phone close again. Thank you. For everything. For not riding away. Thank your sister. She's the one who wouldn't let us. The news hit the county like a thunderclap. Federal agents arrested Silas Drake on 14 counts of racketeering, extortion, stalking, conspiracy, and witness intimidation. Dale Drake was charged with obstruction of justice, conspiracy, and corruption of public office. Both were denied bail. Within a week, 6 more associates were arrested. The poker operation was shut down. DSD Holdings was seized. Every property Silas had stolen or extorted was flagged for investigation, and potential return to its rightful owners. Frank Miller, the farmer who had sold his land under threat, called Pastor Gene and wept into the phone for 10 minutes. "I might get my farm back," he kept saying. "I might get it back." The town exhaled. For the first time in 15 years, people walked a little taller, talked a little louder, looked each other in the eye without glancing over their shoulders. Darlene reopened the gas station diner with a new sign in the window. "This is a community that stands up." She served free coffee for a week. On Sunday, 1 week after the arrests, Wyatt and his brothers rode to Ray's house in Knoxville. Emma met them in the driveway. Her bruises were fading. Yellow and green now, not purple. Her wrist was still wrapped, but she moved easier, stood straighter. Lily burst out the front door the moment she heard the engines. She ran straight to Wyatt, arms wide, and he caught her and lifted her up. She was wearing new shoes, bright red sneakers, and Cal's leather vest, which she still refused to return. "You came back," she shouted. "Told you I would." She looked at him with those wide blue eyes. "Are the bad men gone?" "They're gone, Lily, for a long time." "Good." She nodded with the absolute certainty that only a child can carry. Then she reached into the pocket of the oversized vest and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I made you something." Wyatt set her down and unfolded it. A crayon drawing, 4 motorcycles, a little girl in a red dress, a big man kneeling down, and above them all, in wobbly letters, one word: family. Wyatt stared at it. His throat closed. He tried to speak and couldn't. He folded the drawing carefully, the way he'd fold a flag, the way he'd hold something sacred, and tucked it into his vest. Right next to the photo, right next to the note, right next to the pocket where his phone held Grace's messages. "That rides with me everywhere," he said. Emma stood behind Lily, her hand on her sister's shoulder. She looked at Wyatt with eyes that were clear for the first time since he'd met her. "What now?" she asked. "Now you live," he said. "That's it, you just live." Cal returned his vest, reluctantly accepted back from Lily, only after promising she could wear it again next visit. Dawson shook Ray's hand. Rex made Lily laugh by pretending his motorcycle could talk. And Margaret stood in the doorway, wiping her eyes, holding a tray of sandwiches nobody had asked for, but everyone needed. They rode out at noon. 4 Harleys, 1 road, the October sun high and warm. Wyatt led, as always, with Cal beside him and Dawson and Rex behind. 10 miles down the highway, Wyatt pulled over. He took out his phone and dialed a number. It rang twice. "Dad?" Grace's voice, 11 years old, bright and nervous and hopeful. "Hey, baby, I'm coming to see you, if that's okay." "Really? When?" "I'm heading west right now. I'll be there in 3 days." "3 days?" Her voice cracked with excitement. "Mom, Dad's coming in 3 days." Wyatt heard Karen's voice in the background, cautious but not hostile. "Let me talk to him, Grace." Grace handed over the phone. "Wyatt?" "Karen, I know I don't deserve this. I know I disappeared. I know I broke everything. But I'm different now. I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to let me show her." A long pause. 3 days? 3 days. She's been asking about you, every week, for 4 years. Wyatt's vision blurred. "I know, and I'm done making her wait." Another pause. Then Karen said something he never expected. "Drive safe, Wyatt." He hung up and sat on his bike for a full minute, staring at the open road stretching west. Cal pulled up beside him. "Oregon?" the old man asked. "Oregon," Cal nodded. "Good ride. I'll follow you to the state line." "You don't have to." "I know I don't. That's why I'm doing it." Wyatt kicked his engine to life. The rumble filled his chest. Behind him, 3 brothers fell into formation. Ahead of him, the road opened up like a promise. He thought about Lily, barefoot on gravel, screaming for help. He thought about Emma, standing in a hospital hallway, choosing to fight. He thought about a town that finally exhaled. He thought about Grace, counting the days until her father came home. And he rode, because that's what you do when a little girl grabs your hand and reminds you what it means to be human. You don't look away. You don't ride past. You stop. You kneel down. You listen. And then you rise.